Hello, Booknerds. Welcome to the Booknerds podcast. We are back in this format after a bit, and I am enjoying it so much. It's a Sunday here in India, and we have an author who has written a very different book. It might even, if pardon me, but it might even start a genre in itself. It's about political psychology, which I was again kind of surprised by. A very different book. It's called Modi, the Era and Aura, and it's right here. The author is with us. It's a psychoanalysis. If you look at the subtitle, you'll see it right there. And Dr. Uttam Shiralkar is with us. Thank you so much, sir, for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks for introducing the book and myself and having this chat with you. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so a little bit about Doctor and of course about the book. So this book, there's a disclaimer. This book doesn't take any sides, although it's called Modi, the Era and Aura. I was like, oh my God, okay. There's another book which is going to be propaganda, and I'm like, no, man, I have gone through this. I have read this. But again, Doctor has got the pedigree to kind of come up with this kind of book. He was a surgeon earlier, but I think there was some mishap, if I'm not wrong, and you had to switch,
Accident. Sorry,
an
accident.
accident, yeah, an accident, and you had to change and go over to this to work with the brain as such, so as to call it, and delve deeper into our minds, and you do this professionally now. I will be, of course, asking you why this book, because I know that you are a political person, you have your opinions, and all of that. So, बहुत exciting होने वाला है, and I'm going to mix a few Hindi words here, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
here
yeah,
and there, because our
yeah,
audience is completely like from the Hindi speaking,
yeah, yeah.
diaspora. So yeah, Doctor, first of all, you are in England right now. I know the English love their books. First of all, why about the inception of the book, how it is being received there, because it's very interesting. Perception of this iconic leader and a book like this. So yeah, and my follow-up question, I have so many.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you. Very interesting. So let's start with the first giving sort of idea where this book came from. So as you mentioned earlier, although I'm in England, I do keep on visiting India. I do have close associates. I'm involved in various projects. So I'm socially, culturally is associated. I never left India. So as like every other Indian citizen, I have been following politics, social changes happening. And I have been thinking, what can I contribute? How can I contribute myself with all the experience and understanding I have about things from my profession and from my interaction? How can I contribute? So, this is one thing I thought about, that writing something from a different perspective. As you know, politics is a very, very touchy subject nowadays. And whenever I discuss, I listen, I observe, I think that things need to change the way politics is heading. And again, it is no point in just we always everyone keeps on blaming politician, politics, other people. I thought that what can I do myself? So this is the way for you to do something for our society. At the same time, again, there are many YouTubers, social media has poured all the information. Again, what can I do? So I'm bringing my professional understanding. Also, I wanted to, if I'm going to give or say something authentic, it need to be authentic, it need to be reliable. And that's where I bring my scientific background. At the same time, with all these things, it has to be interesting, it has to be palatable. I mean, there is so much science, but when it actually trickles down to ground, it changes. So I thought that it need to be something which is interesting, which is palatable to average sort of reader person interested in it, and it need to help them
Yeah.
about whatever I'm telling. So this is just a brief introduction.
Yeah. Absolutely, because I still feel that in terms of politics, and especially this, I didn't even think about it, and I am a very aware citizen. that I am very aware about psychology as well, but I'd never thought that the two would go together. Although I think so in marketing and all these teams that politicians have, they must be considering all this, the psychology of the voter, but nobody thought that the psychology of a politician is important. So some that's a flip that I really appreciate. And we think I think so that since we are a very nascent sort of democracy, although we are the biggest, but we should be doing much more research. There should be many more books like this coming out, and of course this is a starting point. And I think so you are claiming that this is the first political psychology book,
Yeah,
if we can define it in a very sort of, yeah, simple manner. So is it the first political psychology book, or in the non-fiction sense at least?
that's right. Yeah. Uh, as you know, this term political psychology is not known, and it is established mostly in USA. And I mentioned in the book that although it has started, it is well known in USA. It needs the needs of that political psychology is more in India because of the culture, our culture, the way the diversity that is seen, the way we think, and sheer number of people we there are who's are kind of interested in this politics. We need to understand each other views, and we need to understand it from psychological scientific perspective. Otherwise we'll be going round and round and round. I mean, there won't be any progress until we see it
Yeah,
in depth with a scientific manner. And you're right
yeah,
that all the teams have got people who understand psychology. In fact, every politician is a basic, he or she is a psychologist. And unless and until you understand the mind, you won't do any politics. But
right.
that is subconscious, that is not obvious.
Hmm.
And that need to be made more explicit, more obvious, so that we can discuss a fundamental thing about it.
Yeah, it's it's so amazing because you have used like different words. There is psychobiography. Of course, it comes under the genre of self-help, political self-help, actually. So where do you think, for the reader and for the common folks, how can they benefit from this? Because at the sort of very surface level, it won't make much sense, because because Indians, I mean, we are so nascent as a nation that we are trying to just make ends meet, right?
Yeah.
We are just, we don't have that luxury of sort of delve into all these things in detail. How do you think it can improve our lives as well?
Yeah. So for that, let me tell you something about what political psychology is and what it involves, what this the topic is. By the way, it is a formal course and it is taught in universities in developed
Wonderful.
countries.
Yeah.
So political psychology involves anything that is related to politics and psychology. How
Okay.
we, as a sort of society, we think, how people vote, how people make decisions, how the communication happens, how the media plays a role into it, how media think about using psychology or mindset of their listeners, how politicians think, how politicians behave, why violence occurs, the terrorism, wars, why that those things happen, how the big politician, the most powerful people in the world or in the country make the decision, how the bureaucracy. So all everything that is involved, that
Wow.
involves thinking, emotions in politics, it deals with. So political psychobiography is one aspect of it. As the name
Okay.
suggests, it is the biography, political biography of a politician, but it is psychological analysis of
Right.
politicians.
Wow.
So, because, and here I would like to explain about the subtitle as well, psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
So, there is a difference between psychoanalysis of one individual that we do in clinics or psychologists do, and this politician's psychoanalysis. About politician, about the leader, there is so much information available in public domain that we don't have to see him face to face. There is so much information
Yeah.
that we gather that information and we connect the dots and we give our analysis. And it is a formal scientific process. It is not just I'm doing it, but
Yeah.
no one has done it before with any of the current politician. The only Indian politician who had this psychobiography done was Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Can you shed more light on that? Because I know you have mentioned Mahatma Gandhi. I think so in the introduction or preface. But um, uh, how was it done? We don't really know about this.
Yeah, I mean, again, I also came to know about it when I started collecting information, reading about
Okay.
political psychology. There
Okay.
was a very famous psychiatrist called Eysenck. He was a follower of Freud.
Okay.
And for some reasons, he came to Gujarat for some clinical meeting. And there he came across with the information about Mahatma Gandhi. And then he collected all information and he gave he collected and he psychoanalyzed Mahatma Gandhi, and he has written a book. It's very revealing. Those who develop further interest should
Yeah.
read about it. As I said, I was thinking, in fact, in my first draft, I did include some information from that book, but
Okay.
because I felt that it would be too much, my book is just introduction.
Yeah.
Someone shouldn't be sort of flooding with all the information about it. So
Mhm.
that is the second point I wanted to mention, that this is introductory. It is not the whole political psychology. It is
Yeah.
just introduction for the Indian readers or those who are interested in Indian politics should get a flavor how this psychobiography or political psychology could be applied in Indian politics. But there are a lot many. I can't say a lot many. There are more books to come after this.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you have, thought of, bringing this to India because, we need this. We need to vote better because I am noticing it's election time right now.
Yeah.
And I tell you, there is a void. This is just my personal opinion, but there's a void of information. Of course, there's information flowing like helter skelter on WhatsApp, but is that, of course, I don't want to get into fake news, etc., but there is a void of good, solid scientific information. And that's why I loved reading the book, because it gave me, first of all, there is no distraction. You cut to the chase immediately. That's something I appreciate. And then, of course, I get to know things in detail because you have touched upon many topics. I know that the book is titled Modi, the Era and Aura, but it's not only about our prime minister. It can be applied to many leaders. And just to understand, perhaps your local MLA, or the local parshad that we have over here, but it's important to understand them so that we can make a better choice. That's what I felt, that it has come at the right time. So congratulations on that,
Thank you.
because we are voting and everybody is aware about. I know certain people who don't even, the lack of information is such that some people don't even know the local leaders. They are not aware about the symbols, party symbols, and the Gen Z have no clue. They are coming in for the right first time. Do you feel that the youngsters also can read this and sort of get a sense of what they are going into, because there are elections
Yeah.
coming up in India every other like 2 3 years? So
If at all there is any age group that
okay.
would most benefit from this
Mhm.
book, it is the youngsters. And again,
Mhm.
it is uh, yes, it is about Modi, but it is also about what everyone can learn, understand, and apply those techniques in their
Yeah.
own life. And obviously, young mind is
Yeah.
the sort of most receptive. They have got more capacity to change, because if they make those change, they can benefit for rest of their life. They've got a sort of long life ahead, and
Yeah.
they should take interest at this age, so that
Yeah.
their political opinion may change over
Yeah.
the course of time, experience, and by taking this principle. So if at all, I mean, this is my genuine request,
Yeah.
and thinking that that group should take interest.
yeah,
And again, I have tried my best to bring scientific information to
yeah,
make it interesting as well, palatable scientific information. So they should take it seriously. They might find it hard because, nowadays, because of the social media, yeah,
yeah,
that is the other thing I would like to, yes, I would love
yeah,
to. And I would like to push this further for that age group because
mhm,
you know what this social media has brought, like there are so many positive things, but there are so many
mhm,
not so positive things. Reducing
truly.
the attention span is one
Yeah,
of the significant problems nowadays. They don't want to sort of go deeper, understand it deeper. It is just few seconds of
yeah,
attention and that's it.
yeah,
I think this book is the therapeutic in that sense as well, that
yeah,
it would help you to widen your attention span, look things in a bit deeper sense that
yeah,
that are going to be helpful for everyone. So
yeah.
yes, that is the I would keep on coming back that is the age group that I am hoping, and that is like everyone knows that is the hope for everyone.
Yeah, and young voters need to be really aware because, like, uh, a major chunk of our nation is made up of younger voters. I mean, so we need to be really aware. I am a bit older, but the Gen Z especially, and I feel that they are more sensitive towards these things. They are more aware. They are more aware about psychology. They are more aware about politics as well, I feel.
But the other thing is because of this attention and because of too much of YouTube and social media exposure, they get
Yeah.
caught. And again,
Oh
there
yeah.
are various biases. Our psychological process mentioned anchoring bias, which is just even a sort of, even though the information may not be authentic, may not be reliable, may not be sort of useful, they get
Yeah.
caught and they get fixed. So that is the other thing, that because just like age group, I urge them to take interest. At the same
Mhm.
time, I feel from my clinical perspective that that
Yeah.
is the most sensitive age because
Yeah.
they have got more access. You rightly said that there is a void, and some people might sort of challenge that. How come there is a void of information when there is so much information? But plenty is not the reliable, authentic, or sensible information. There is too much of information, it creates
Yeah.
problem. And I agree with you that yes, there is a void of sensible, authentic, reliable information. There is too much of misinformation going around, and that get
Yeah.
caught by the young minds.
Okay, you talked about biases, and there's an entire section about biases in the book, where you mention different kind of biases, confirmation bias and other anchoring bias you mentioned just now. Uh, Please take us through this because not many people are aware about this. You check out the comment section on any social media, and you'll get a sense of what kind of biases are people afflicted by, I would say, to
Yeah.
go to the extent of it's very, I feel it's very dangerous, not only for politics but otherwise as well. So would you like to shed more light on that because
Yeah.
it's very interesting?
I will be giving more detailed information about one particular bias that you just mentioned, confirmation bias, because it is so obvious and it is one of the most sort of damaging as far as the social media is concerned. That is
Yeah.
the rampant. In confirmation bias, what we do is that we pick up information just to confirm our established beliefs. That's all. And
Yeah.
this is what is called as ecosystem,
Yeah.
that equal like echo this, we just listen to our own voice, our own views. Just take example, youtubers, the
Yeah.
kind of youtubers, the kind of newspaper people read are just to confirm their own opinions. It gets strengthened and strengthened. That's why what we see is the polarization, and
Yeah.
the polarization is widening.
Yeah.
It may sound odd or extreme, but as we know, there are youtubers which are sort of running channels or youtube sessions with extreme views.
Yeah.
Some people might take offense, but from my professional perspective, I consider some of them to be like drug dealers. you
Yeah.
know the drug dealers provide the chemicals for people who are addicted, and they just
Yeah.
fuel creates the vicious circle.
Yeah.
Similar thing, those extreme viewers, they channel there and they enforce and they manipulate minds of people just by
Yeah.
giving the information that they want, and they fuel
Yeah.
further polarization.
Wow.
It just
Wow.
benefits those YouTuber.
Yeah.
but it is harmful unless, and democracy won't work on these kind of
Yeah,
extreme view fueled all the time on the minds of people. There has to be some kind of compromise, and
yeah,
the sufferer is the central view, and
yeah.
which is needed. So
Oh,
that,
we'll
uh,
talk about the central view because that's very interesting, and I don't know if there are any centrists left, but I think they are 1%ers, but we'll talk about them because it's important to give them representation.
yeah,
Before I go further, you're so right because of course YouTubers from any side, they could be from left, right, center, but the algorithm is again then proving as a catalyst to just show us information what we have clicked on. We are again kind of going to the similar channels. We are not listening to contrary opinion, be it X or YouTube, anywhere. It is just, although X is quite balanced, I feel that it is balanced, although it is very toxic sometimes, but it is quite balanced because there are several kinds of opinions that are doing the rounds, and it doesn't show information in the same way uh, like other platforms. So you feel that you've talked about the government, you've talked about YouTubers, you've talked about people. Everybody has got shared responsibility in this.
yeah,
So one, we need to come together to sort this out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's where I would say about my book, that the initial impression people may have, especially with the election season, there is so much of a campaign, so much of a news going on. People may get fed up after, or may have already, there's so much going on and conflicting information that
Yeah,
people, they say that they are so much engrossed in their own daily life that they
yeah,
just don't want any more.
mm,
So when these kind of apathy or lethargy happens, people don't want to think about it in a
mm,
reasonable way. That creates a problem, and this is where we need to think about, and people need to take kind of a step back, why this is
yeah,
happening, what can be done. And this is the book about what can be done to understand our own thinking. So
yeah,
in a way, this book is not just about, as I said, political psychology. It is about, it will give some idea, reflection about your own thinking.
yeah,
Everybody of us, each of us has got some
mm,
kind of biases.
mm.
The first thing is to acknowledge our own bias. That I would
Oh,
myself that yes, each of us do have biases, but the main thing that we can do for ourselves is acknowledging our own bias and be careful about how we process the information,
yeah,
how we think,
mm,
and
mm,
how things can be done better. And that's where I give examples or feedback about, Prime Minister is always known across the
mm,
world about his
yeah,
decisiveness.
yeah,
And interestingly, I recently heard one of his interview, and the same question was asked to him, and he gave an answer, which I was amused that he said that I, I can't tell you how I make the decision. And he explained what I would say, that what Prime Minister said, that
mm,
he can't explain how he makes the decision. I think this book might take you a bit further, how he makes the decision. And
yeah,
not only how he makes the decision, how
mm,
each of us can improve our decision making, especially in politics, where there is so much uncertainty.
yeah,
That much is the kind of self-help. And other thing, it is, in psychology, we give questionnaires for people to understand their own
right,
understanding.
yeah,
This book could be understanding or having insight how
mm,
our own thinking is, how many biases we possess, we have, and how they
yeah,
can be reduced. So
yeah,
this is the book that would cover different spans. And again, there is something for everybody in a
yeah.
limited amount. I must also sort of highlight that this is introductory book. You will get a flavor what it
Oh,
is.
yes. Yes. I realize that because you didn't go too much into the details because that makes sense. I mean, the reader gets kind of overawed and then, might not read in the genre. That we don't want that. So
Yeah,
I think so it's a great, start. And you talked about decisiveness and of course about the Prime Minister. So we have not spoken about Mr. Modi, and because he is in the title, we need to talk about him. And it's, of course, it's election time. Everybody is concerned about whatever he's saying, whatever he's doing. Of course, we are listening to the opposition also very carefully. There's a lot of things happening right now.
Yeah.
But why did you choose him as a subject? Because it's, you could have chosen anybody from history as well to kind of psychoanalyze and mention all the theories, because there are many in here. Why did you do that? Was there a particular reason? Do share.
So, to answer your question, why Modi? The simple answer, the very short answer would be who else? He's such a powerful politician, leader, not just in India, across the world. Who else can I or anyone think of if they want to write a political psychobiography in the modern Indian and international politics? That is first statement. Secondly, he's the least understood prime minister in India.
Yeah.
He's the politician who has been misperceived the most. And if I have to give another version, another side of his personality, he is the most appropriate politician. In addition to that, in addition to all these attributes or characteristics, his personality, his politics, the dynamism, the variability he has shown, it is just unbelievable, very, very difficult to grasp, even from a professional perspective. And again, this book is just a trailer of his life, not the whole life. You can give the sense what it is and what potential he has. And more importantly, because my aim of writing the book is for readers to learn something that they apply. There are so many things, even simple things, that he's applying in his life, in his philosophy, in his thinking, that if someone want to emulate and apply those techniques, that can be very, very helpful to everyone. And I can tell you that it has to a certain extent helped myself. So I'm not just preaching, I have been applying myself.
Oh, that's wonderful to know. Would you like to mention like a few things, like top three things where you found that okay, this I can also incorporate? Because of course, I truly believe that we can learn from everyone. I mean, everyone around us, and sometimes there are things. It could be about business. It could be about life. It could be about anything. We usually kind of shrug it off that okay, this guy can't teach me anything. He has not achieved anything. That's the common perception. Although we are talking about someone who has achieved so much, but usually people shrug off people because, oh, he doesn't have or she doesn't have the accolades or the education or the perhaps the exposure that I have got. I have traveled the world. I know everything. So where do you feel that you have made changes to kind of co-opt these learnings with your sensibilities?
Yeah. Okay. So there are many things that I have mentioned in the book about him, about his politics. I
Mhm.
mean, he's a great
Yeah,
orator. Everybody knows that. So I have scientifically
yeah,
analyzed those things. So someone
mhm,
who want to
mhm,
improve the communication skill also take some uh, information, some tips about it. But the things
mhm,
that I am impressed and I'm trying to, I would highlight, I'm trying to, I haven't been
yeah,
successful to the extent that I would like to.
yeah,
Three
mhm,
things. One is
mhm.
metacognition, second
Okay.
is adaptive expertise, and third is
Mhm.
self actualization. I'll just briefly mention these 3 points, and those who develop interest can learn more about it in the books. The
Yes,
first is
because a lot of viewers and listeners are new to these terms.
okay.
I would like to you to kind of break it down a little bit because most people won't understand it.
Yeah,
Especially our readers read a lot of books, so they may
yeah,
not be well
yeah, yeah,
versed with these
yeah,
terms.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I will tell you how I have seen, and the science says he's applying it so that people can understand what it is
Yeah.
about. The first thing is that he's well known for his decisiveness. So, how
Yeah.
he is able to make those decisions, and that decision is one of the thinking process that he's applying, he's using, is called as metacognition, which is thinking about
Okay.
thinking, how we think
Yeah.
about thinking. And again, this is a very, very casual, simplified explanation. But again, the book explains in detail how he does that. And it is one
Yeah.
of the factor why he is able to make the decision. And again, it is scientific. So it has been studied in others as well, those who make good decision. And he's applying it to the most efficient way. And that's why
Yeah.
it needs to be learned or understood better. So how he make decision better, how he make the decision, that is one. Second thing, as we know, till he became chief minister of Gujarat,
Yeah.
he was not in a administrative politics. He was in politics, but not
Right.
the administrative politics. Becoming
Yeah.
straightway to the chief minister, and from that to the prime minister of India, it need lot of adaptation that anyone couldn't have imagined. It is for us to okay for either to criticize him or to make
Yeah.
comments about his politics or administration,
Yeah.
but the leaps and bounds he has covered, it is also, there is a scientific term called as adaptive expertise. So the way he has adapted
Yeah.
in the roles and in his life is worth knowing more about it. And again, we
Yeah.
all will benefit how the
Mhm.
adaptation occurs. And again, it is a
Yeah.
scientifically studied process. There is evidence about it.
Mhm.
I make it
Mhm.
simple for people to understand what this adaptive expertise is.
Okay.
And the third is called as self-actualization, which is, we all, there are, he always asks, where does he get this abundant energy from? How he
Mhm.
work 18 hours a day? How he can manage life in just 4 hours sleep? How he can manage
Yeah.
abroad when people suffer from jet lag? So there are so many questions. How come he is able to give witty responses, spontaneous
Mhm.
responses, his communication, all those things?
Mhm.
He has answered from his accord about these questions, these issues, and I reveal them from a scientific, from the psychological science perspective. And the process is called as self-actualization, which
Mhm.
again is simple term, fulfilling your ability to the fullest.
Yeah.
Whatever one feels he or she would like to do, and
Mhm.
he think that can do, how to achieve it and what happens when someone is achieved. And he is the
Yeah.
ideal example of this self-actualization. And again, in that book I explain how, sort of evidence or information, why, what are the things that are
Yeah.
indicative of his self-actualization, and again
Mhm.
how others can understand, and how his self-actualization has benefited some people already.
Yeah. Oh, I should show the book again at this stage because we haven't for a bit. Because you referenced the book. So, self-actualization is something which, I mean, there are self-help books about it. But when you look at live examples and kind of learn, uh, there are so many instances where this has worked, like you mentioned, and he has done it. Whether people like it or not, that's a different thing.
That's the part,
But
yeah.
he has thought that, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to perhaps promote more startups in this country. And that has been done. I mean, there are no two ways about it.
Yeah.
I never heard the term startup before pre 2014. It was a very rare term, very rare term. But the way I mean, I am a very centrist guy. And let's talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But this thing with it's mind-boggling, the kind of machinery and the kind of effort that has been put behind it. I recently visited a new, uh, center for startups in Delhi, and oh my God, it is so amazing. And you know what he did, and his entire management did? They invited, people like me or other entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs from across India, and they flew them to Delhi.
Right.
Imagine. And the first thing the Minister of Skills told us, like, has this happened before? Have you seen this? I was like, no, man. I mean, this has not happened. It's amazing. Who would fly us out? We don't have 1 million followers. We don't have 100K followers. Leave aside the influencers. You know, we didn't deserve. And then they go on to give us the kind of treatment which only corporates can kind of, boast of. This is a personal experience I really
Yeah.
wanted to share with
Yeah.
you, because this is part of actualization.
Yeah.
If you think that the entrepreneurs of this country or the people of this country can achieve more than what they were meant to, perhaps this, it's just mind boggling. That's
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
appreciative side of me comes
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course I have a
I forgot to mention one point to your question, why this book about Modi?
yep.
One of the things that I have observed him, I mean, I'm seeing him from psychological perspective,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I uh, can explain his term, his PM, as a prime
Yeah.
mentalist, because
Oh,
the
yes.
goal that he has achieved, it wouldn't have been achieved without him using psychological methods. He is a great
Yeah.
mentalist. Mentalist is the one who understands someone else's mind and
Yeah.
can address or make some improvement changes in someone else's mind. And he's a kind of psychotherapist for the society, I would
Yes.
say.
It's a
Uh,
great power, though. It's a great power. If used well, it
yeah,
can do wonders,
that's
right? I
right.
mean,
That's right.
I know, I think I read somewhere that the the ruling party and the prime minister have not been able to kind of explain themselves well to the citizens of our
Yeah,
country and even beyond.
yeah,
They have done a bad job at it,
yeah,
and then they have done a good job, because there are some things which have been achieved, which could have been perhaps, um, in fact, even in so many fields, they could have done a better job communicating this better, which I feel there is a lack of, or perhaps it could have, it also requires more funds or whatever. I don't know what is the real this thing, but there are so many things in terms of infrastructure and things which can be, glorified more,
yeah,
which
yeah,
hasn't been done,
yeah,
at all.
yeah,
So I think so there is so much to explore there as well. You were saying
yeah.
something, sir.
Sorry.
You were saying something. I think I
No,
cut you
no.
off, but
Uh,
okay, okay.
Two things again. I'm just thinking, if someone says that there is
Mhm.
so much about him written on
Mhm.
TV and books written about him,
Yeah,
why what why one should take interest in this book? There's so much about it. So
true.
I would like to say that yes, there is so much information about him, and there are so many books written about him, and I have gone through some of them for
Mhm.
writing this book. I
Mhm.
would say that significant number of books have
Mhm.
written by taking a stand, either
Yeah,
in favor of him or against
yeah,
him.
yeah.
And this is where I would say that this book stands out. I have avoided taking a stand. This book is
Mhm.
not about taking a stand, but to
Yeah, yeah.
understand him from a psychological
Absolutely.
perspective,
Yeah,
to get a deeper understanding. And that's why, although there is so much information, like
yeah,
we say that there is so much information in social media, there
yeah.
isn't any valid information. And that's why he's the least understood prime minister. And it will take many
Absolutely.
years for him to understand his true value. It will take over the years. So I'm just trying to bring it fast forward for people to know him now rather than
Yeah.
later.
I think so. It's important to understand things. Although some of my friends won't would argue the other way, that, oh, what the hell? Who cares? We'll just go and vote or whatever. We'll do whatever
Yeah,
we want to. But it's important to understand, what are we here for? We
that's
need
right.
to understand what's happening in the world. Anyways, we talked about centrist, thinking, and do share some of the initial feedback as well about the book that you are getting, because it's still new in India.
Yeah,
Not many people might have
Yeah.
read about it. I think so through the podcast, a lot more people will know about it and talk about it. I'm very hopeful about that, and we'll get a variety of opinions.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
hopeful.
as expected.
So as expected, but what are the things that people are telling you? Because you must have like beta readers and
Yeah,
other, friends, family, and beyond telling
yeah,
you what
yeah.
is their feedback, initial feedback.
First feedback, it is a fascinating insight. It is a different approach that most of the people never ever thought about or imagine that it could be, but that politics and especially Prime Minister Modi could be viewed,
Yeah,
seen from this angle. That is one. Secondly, it has stimulated their thinking. And those who are rigid in their thoughts or fixated admitted that unfortunately they can't just get away. And again, in fact, those are the individuals that they need to read more. Those, to be honest, those who are central, flexible, open-minded,
yeah,
and open to
yeah.
ideas and want to bring about some change in themselves and people around them have appreciated this. And they
But why
want
do you
more.
think that is? Why do you think that is? I know it comes from a place of very strong opinion. But why have we become so inflexible? I mean, we can listen to the other side and perhaps be more scientific. Why do we don't want to do that?
Yeah, that is the limitation. And for that, it needs education. And it is across the world. I mean,
Okay.
India is not the
Okay.
only country which has been polarized and debate. It is
Oh
there
yeah, yeah.
across the world. It is not just politics, there are other aspects as well.
Mm.
Excuse me. So, this is the new, excuse me, this is the reality, new reality. Partly it is
Yeah,
because of the information overload. There is so
yeah.
much information. We have a
Mm.
very limited, small brain capacity, small attention span. We
Yeah.
can't devote time in all these things. We have to just take a quick
Mhm.
fix,
Mm.
quick second decision. We choose the
Mm.
information and we accept it. So there is a
Mm.
limitation. There is a problem, and it will come across. The AI is going to
Yeah.
increase this overload further and make it problem
Yes.
more complex. So we need to be, and it is happening as we hear about
It's
various
happening.
conspiracy theories, and
Yeah.
it is going to get. So we, in a way, we are going back in centuries as far as our
Yeah.
brain is concerned. There is so much happening around us, very little
Mm.
information, very
Yeah.
little attention and capacity.
Mm.
That's why it is
Yeah.
happening. So we need to give some time for ourselves, our own thinking, to build up
Yeah.
our new capacity.
Do you feel we can avoid conflicts by kind of developing this bent of mind? Because I know you're educating people through this. But it's pretty evident reading the book as well, because you know that people don't know and you're trying to educate them. But do you feel we can avoid conflicts and perhaps have more sort of intellectual is a bad word these days, but intelligent decisions? Uh,
Yeah. Of course, and this is where again I can vouch that I have been applying this principle in myself, because, like a human being, I have my own views, and whenever I get extreme views, totally unacceptable views, I also get emotional reactions, and I feel like, okay, I mean, do I have to listen to this? But while preparing this process, I decided to apply, and I'm applying it, and I can vouch it helps myself to reduce the stress, to reduce the, I mean, I become more tolerant in receiving the extremes information. And you know what, even people have surprised that some people made some comment, some very extreme comment, and they thought that I would get angry and I would respond. They've surprised, and they developed insight, okay, this is how it should be responded, reacted. So yes, conflict cannot be avoided, but the extreme side, the harm of the conflict can be reduced. And that is other thing that has stimulated me to write this book. Not just India, whatever is happening across the world, it is, unless and until we do something about it, it is going to spiral in further chaos. So this is
yeah,
just a small thing I want to make people aware and also offer them a solution that they
yeah.
can start looking at the things differently and bring change themselves. And most importantly, for politicians. So if
Okay.
there is any journalists as well, what they
Hmm.
report, they have a significant role to play. They can take some tips, some kind of understanding, different understandings, and hopefully things will start changing.
I'm sensing that the second part to this will feature a journalist. I'm just sensing that. I don't know why, but but that should be interesting because journalists are, oh my God, there is an entire chapter, guys, in this book about media and, of course, Prime Minister Modi, how he has kind of dealt with media and how media has kind of supported or not supported him. Very interesting chapter. You should read it. We have not spoken about it because वो बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा, and we won't be able to do justice to this podcast. But amazing things. Of course, we Dr. Uttam talks about the recent events as well, as fresh as the Ram Mandir and all those things. He has talked about everything, but in a very scientific way. That's what I appreciated. And thank you, Doctor, for being here talking to us.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, if you have any reference books, of course, you have mentioned one book already, which we have to read, and we would like to put that in the comments
Yeah.
for people to go to. But if you have any books that you want to recommend as a side read or anything you love, it would be
Right.
great. Of course, this book you have.
Yeah.
People have to go to Amazon and buy. That's a separate thing.
Can I request you to bring the cover of the book closer? I know we are talking about cover at the end, but I want to mention something about it. This is a
Yeah,
portrait of Prime Minister drawn
yeah,
by an artist for visually impaired people to perceive him through touch.
yeah,
The reason I put this on the cover because
yeah.
just like this portrait he has drawn for visually impaired people, I consider
Mm,
this book to be
mm,
for people who are unable to understand Prime Minister. And through this
yeah.
book, I would like them to understand him. That's the uh, aim or purpose of this cover.
Wonderful. That's very interesting. And we need to come up with more books with Braille. Of course, there is an entire movie that has come up about this iconic figure in India. His name is Srikant. The
Yeah,
movie name is Srikant.
yeah, yeah,
We go watch the movie as well, but read the book. And do let us know in the comments when this podcast launches on YouTube at Booknerds. So do let us know your opinions, whatever they may be. We are very open to that. Just I would request you to maintain civility. Don't go beyond the boundary lines of civility. But do send messages for Dr. Uttam and for us. Give feedback to us as well. If you wanted me to ask him more questions about something, do let me know. We would like to rectify that perhaps in the future or have a special sort of small session or live with him. Thank you so much, Doctor, and for writing this book and shedding light on this very, uncharted territory, uncharted genre. I feel that more needs to be done in this genre, and we're looking forward to so much more from you. And you have a great responsibility to, give us more books, and we are looking forward to the all the feedback that will come in, and we'll direct that to you. And let's see what happens.
Thank you very
Perhaps
much.
the second version, yeah. We always encourage feedback from readers because then only the second or third parts or
Yeah,
second or
yeah.
third books improve by authors. So let's see what happens. Thank you so much, everyone,
Thank
and happy reading, and have fun while learning more about political psychology through the book. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I enjoyed it.